You're listening to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. You'll be amazed at all these wild but true situations that others have found themselves in. Because on this show, you'll hear uncensored, unbelievable stories from the world of real estate. I'm Leigh Brown. Let's dive right in. Before you get the rest of the story, I'd love to share a quick message from today's sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Follow Up Boss, one of the leading CRMs, client relationship managers for residential real estate. Tons of top producing agents and some of the fastest growing teams out there are using Follow Up Boss to increase lead conversion, eliminate busy work that you're not doing anyway, and frankly, deliver a higher class experience in real estate to everybody who chooses you as their realtor of choice. So if you're going to keep listening to this, which I know you will, there's more information and a personal review of Follow Up Boss. For more information, go to followupboss.com/crazy. Hello, friends. I'm Leigh Brown, and you've landed on Crazy Shit in Real Estate. And yes, this is absolutely your new favorite real estate podcast for lots of reasons. The biggest of which is that you don't have the foggiest idea what any episode is going to be about, because neither do I till I dig in. Today we have Nik Tsoukales, and yes, he's Greek. And before you try to spell his last name, I totally guessed it right out of the gate because I love my big fat Greek wedding. Nik is really an interesting guest. You're going to hear about several different pathways to success in real estate, and you're going to think a little bit differently about how you're judging people. So listen to this episode, enjoy it, get some insights, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, so Nik, welcome to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. I see you got some snow in the background. Tell us a little bit about where you're from, what you do in and around real estate. Give us a little bit of Nik Tsoukales' story.
So I do a bunch with real estate. So first I own a marketing company that markets the real estate industry, but I didn't get there by mistake. I was the youngest real estate agent in the city of Boston at 18 years old, many, many moons ago. And I always loved real estate because I just think, everyone loves real estate. Everyone wants to be involved with property. You can see it, you can touch it, you can feel it, and it makes you feel bigger than you are when you have a big old building. So my first real estate love was selling it, renting it out. But I would say my second love for real estate is completely centered around nostalgia. I love buying old buildings, 1920s especially, rehabbing them and reinfusing life into them and then renting them out to good people that need a good home. What a concept.
So talk to me about being an 18-year-old getting into real estate in Boston. That had to have been wildly intimidating. And what leads you to go do something that's seen as a grown-up's job in a city that's obviously steeped in history, and you've got one of everybody in Boston? How does an 18-year-old get to that point?
An older friend of mine was working as a rental agency around the college campuses in Boston. And it was really simple. Like one day we went to lunch and he had a lot more money than I did. And I was like, hey, what gives? Why do you have money and I'm broke as a joke? And I'm working at my dad's restaurant, working the drive-through window, like graveyard shift. And this guy's like in a nice shirt and a clean sweater, just looking good, smelling good. And I'm smelling like a chicken wing. And he was like, he's like, I'm working for this rental agency and I'm renting out apartments. So he's like, if you want on board, I can show you what to do. So he actually sent me to a little school in Boston. I took the course, I took the course of certification so you can get licensed. And then I took the test and I started interviewing for jobs at real estate agencies. And I remember at the time, I started I literally was walking into these local offices in the suburbs. And I was like, I'm here, I've arrived. I have this license. Will you hire me so I can sell real estate? I was really naive. And I thought I could just show up and get it done. And I remember sitting down with the CEO of a company that's out of business now. They should have hired me, but yeah, they really should have. And he's asking me. He was so intrigued that I even walked into the office that he took the interview with me. I think he was just confused. And he asked me, he's like, "What makes you think you can sell real estate?" And I was like, "Well, what's different about me than you? It's literally just the work we're going to do in the transaction." And that was the case. Well, he didn't hire me. I went off and did rentals in the city of Boston. So I would say that was the gateway. That's the gateway drug into like selling high-end real estate, because I could get investors to trust me renting out their apartments and build rapport. But I was just 18 trying to make money, and I thought this is great. And I always looked a little older. I'm hoping now I look a little younger, but back then I looked a little older.
Right, a whole different ballgame.
It was great. And I kind of snuck in. No one knew how old I was.
Well, that's an interesting pathway, because it's not really the same pathway that's accessible in a small town or a rural market, because we don't have a rental real estate pathway in the same way that a large urban market does. So when you're looking at that, how do you make a living as a rental agent in a city like Boston, for those who might be curious as to how do you even get paid? Because when most people in the public look at realtors, they're seeing the realtor who's all dressed up, who sold a house, and the residential piece is just the ubiquitous look of a realtor. The rental piece is straight hustle. So how do you put those pieces together, and does that pathway still exist today? Because I will say, one of the things that drives me crazy is young people don't know that real estate has 1,000 different jobs out there. Like, you could be a rental agent or a sales agent. You could be somebody who does appraisals and surveys, and there's 1,000 different jobs. So talk to us in just a couple of paragraphs about what it looks like to be a rental agent, and if people should still pursue that pathway now.
If you live, especially if you're in a college city, okay, or a really densely populated city, being a rental agent is still a thing, and you can make a ton of money doing it. And obviously, like, I remember at the time, the sales agents, they kind of looked down on us like, oh, you're the rental guys, you're the rental rats, right? That's kind of how we were treated. But there was a ton of money, and the fee breakdown was fairly simple. I mean, it's not that far different. For us, it was 1 month's worth of rent was a commission. And obviously, if we're working at a company and they're supplying us leads, we would split it with the house. But all in all, give or take, there was a gross commission of a month's rent. Now, if you're in a Metro Boston and you got a rent of $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, and you can do a couple of these every week, and you're a young kid, you could bring in 6 figures while you're still in school. And the cool thing is, again, I mentioned this earlier, it's a gateway. So for me, I really did want to sell homes. I wanted to. I really loved the idea of sales. I thought sales was this amazing thing. The idea that I could get into sales, I could serve a bunch of people, they're all going to be happy with me, and I can make money like a surgeon. I thought that was marvelous, right? Before I even really finished my first semester in college. But rentals is the gateway to that, okay? Once you start establishing rapport with investors, and they understand that you know the rental market. If you think of investors, the only thing they care about is, how much can I get for rent? Am I buying in a neighborhood that I'm going to get type of tenant that's going to be able to pay me on time? Are they students with co-signers? Are they professionals? Whatever the numbers are. So once you can get in with these landlords and you start bringing them really quality tenants, and you start acting in their best interest, and as well as the people you're representing, of course, they'll start trusting you with things like finding properties for you. And you will become a sales agent by mistake. And that's the big thing. If you want to become a real estate agent, you're in a major metropolitan area, rentals is great, because you will become a sales agent whether you like it or not. It will happen. That's actually what happened with me. I got really good at the rentals, and then by mistake, a few people said, hey, are these good properties? And essentially what happens is, when you're a really good rental agent, the landlords will start having you underwrite their deals. Hey, Nick, I got this one under agreement. Is this a good one? What's my pro forma going to look like? What am I getting for rents? And then once you have that trust, you can start making those deals for them as well.
I love that. You're really reverse engineering the process. Whereas with a lot of investors, a realtor says, oh, now I've sold a bunch of houses, now I have to learn investing. Whereas you came the other direction if you already knew what the rents were going to look like and what tenants would say and what the expectations would be. So it's a wonderful way to look at it. And also a reminder to everybody out there, don't look down on leasing agents and looking down on people who work in the tenant acquisition side of the market, because that's huge and our investors need to know what they're getting. So you transitioned into a different side of the space. And of course, you start to see things entirely differently as you develop some teeth in the game. So tell us what happened next as you started working with investors and putting that knowledge to use.
I'll tell you, here's what's interesting too. Something to notate for those of you that are listeners that are interested in a real estate career. So many of you are going onto the masses to find more and more clients and hoping that throughout their lifetime, they will have 3, 4, 5 events in their life where they buy and sell a property. You could work with 5 investors and they're having 5 events per year. 5 people. They're all in your phone favorites, and those are the only people you're taking calls from. And in terms of just how big your Rolodex needs to be, it can be far smaller. So, like I mentioned earlier, I ended up transitioning from rentals into sales. Funny enough, that same person that got me into the rentals, who then pushed me to more aggressively market myself into sales, and I got there, he then started a career in mortgage sales, okay, as a loan officer. And we went out to lunch again. He was in a Mercedes convertible. He was in a suit this time and not a dress shirt. His shoes were a little fancier. I was like, wait a second, what gives? And I asked him, his name was Nik as well. I'm like, hey, what's the deal, man? You look better than you looked before. He's like, well, I'm into mortgage sales. And the light bulb went off. It was that simple. I was like, I need to be doing that. and I begged him for a job. He told me no 100 times in a row. And on the 101st time, he got me a job in the mortgage business. So I continued in real estate, but then I was able to help these investors in my sphere of influence now finance the deals. And I can't say I enjoyed it as much as real estate. It was a really great career. And that's where I learned digital marketing, and I'm super blessed. But I have to say, being an agent was 1,000 times more fun than giving out the financing for the properties. I became a desk jockey, and I'm an extrovert. I wanted to be out there. I love being out there. So that's one of my great regrets, you could say.
Okay. So I told y'all that I would do a review of Follow Up Boss, because I'm your friend in real estate, and I did. Now, there's a blue million CRM out there. I mean, if you go to any Facebook group, every realtor's like, which one should I use? Which one should I use? And you know that these CRM, which are client relationship managers or customer relationship manager, whatever you want to call it, it's truly a system that's just designed to help you know what to do next, because you're very busy and you're a multitasker in real estate. With all those different tasks and balls up in the air, you need something to help you stay on track. And that's what Follow Up Boss does. Now, when you save a name and a phone number in there, that is basically a Rolodex. Follow Up Boss is going to take the names and phone numbers and also help you know what to do next. So you can maintain these relationships with your neighbors, because that's what this is about. Real estate is not about serving just prospects and clients. It's about taking great care of your neighbors' needs in real estate. And if you'll use a tool like Follow Up Boss, where they remember you, they might even call you when they're ready to buy or sell again, or when their mom and daddy do, or their best friend or their kid, and you want to be top of mind, that's what a product like Follow Up Boss will do for you. Truly, it's going to change your business when you start paying better attention to people. They don't have to know you use Follow Up Boss, but they'll totally understand that they are being heard by you. So now there's a free trial for my people because you're loved. Go to followupboss.com/crazy. No credit card is required. And frankly, because you're my people and we made an ask for you, Follow Up Boss said, yes, you get double the free trial. That's actually enough time to log in, put some pieces in it, and watch it change your business as it has for so many realtors and teams nationwide. Again, go to followupboss.com/crazy to start your free trial today. So then, having worked in lots of different parts of real estate, from leasing agent to sales agent to mortgages and money, and of course you work in marketing now, you know that my viewers and my listeners are all about the stories of the things that we see and hear about in real estate that are completely unexpected. And all you can do as somebody in the space is figure out how to solve the problem and power forward. So we are very curious to know, Nik, what have you seen or experienced in and around the Boston real estate market that made you say, y'all are never going to believe this?
Well, I'll tell you, I have one story from when I was a rental agent. And I'll preface it by saying, don't judge ever, but don't judge a book by its cover. Boston specifically is a place where there's a lot of money here, but we're not New York. We're not Vegas. We're not LA. You don't know who's got the money here. And there are a lot of people with it. And I remember one day I'm sitting in the office and we had this system at the office when people didn't like taking walk-ins, right? For whatever reason, they just didn't convert as well. So we just didn't like doing it. But a walk-in came to the office and we had the system, like these little index cards, and someone had to take the walk-in. And they made up an excuse why they didn't want to take the walk. And they're like, oh, they're not going to buy. And the kids that came in, they were covered in dirt for some reason. They were young guys and they just looked beat up like they just played some sports. And the first agent said, I don't want to, I'm busy. I can't help. And the other agent's like, oh, I got to go to lunch. The other agent was busy with something. So I ended up getting them as a walk-in. I remember thinking, all these people didn't want to work with them. They're probably going to be kind of crappy prospects. So I sat down with them and I said, okay, what are you looking for? And the prospect said to me, he said, I'm looking for the nicest place you can find me in the city of Boston. And I was like, okay, sure. The nicest place I can find you in the city of Boston. So I started pulling up 2 bedrooms for like $1,500 at the time. Like, it was a fortune. And he was like, that doesn't look good. The next one didn't look good. And I'm like, really, this is getting strange. So I ended up getting for like $3,000 a month. And this is 20 years ago. This was an insane amount of money for any rental. And he said, yeah, I want to look at it. And I was like, well, you know what, if you want to look at it, sure. But I just could not imagine that these guys could afford it. I'm like, they don't look like they have a ton of money. Like, they just look like a couple of kids. And how are they going to pay all this money? So anyway, I grabbed the keys and I said, all right, let's go. And we walk out of the office and I tell them, hey, you can jump in my car. And I had this car at the time that on one side of the car, the driver's side was pretty mangled because it was a hoopty.
Because you're in Boston. I mean, the Boston bump. We know about the Boston bump.
Exactly. Well, I told them, I said, hey, get in from the passenger side. That was okay. And I used to park it in front of the office a certain way so people couldn't see all the damage to the car. And the client said, no, it's okay. We'll take my car. And he presses the little button, the unlock button on the chain. Exactly. And a couple of cars away from me is this brand new Porsche Turbo, like decked out, 100,000 plus. And I'm like, who is this guy? Anyway, long story short, we started looking at listings. We spent the whole day. None of the listings were good enough. He was the son of a Saudi prince, something or other.
Oh.
The guy he had with him was his assistant that was just in charge of doing his stuff, like literally getting his lawn.
Like in Coming to America.
That's exactly what it was like. It was unbelievable. We ended up renting him at the time, the most expensive rental we could find in the city of Boston. It was in Kenmore Square in front of the Red Sox Stadium. It had a view where you could almost see onto the field, and it was full of Red Sox players. And it was the biggest rental in the history of we had a chain of offices at the time. It was the biggest rental commission. And the company paid us a rental amount equal to the sum that the client paid us too. So we got that fee twice. And then I took the next month off and didn't work because it was so much money for a kid. So that's my little story about it.
So it's a life story, right? Not judging the book by its cover. So he was being judged by how he looked, and a reminder that you should take the business because it comes in from all different angles. But then you really think about it, and at its core, it goes back to how we should be asking better questions when we want to serve somebody. And you probably learned that the hard way. You didn't ask him enough questions. Well, what exactly do you want? Oh, you want the most expensive place. Probably could have saved yourself a heck ton of time, but all of us as humans jump to assumptions, and that's just not healthy when you're doing, whether it's real estate or marketing or any business at all. So did you keep up with the guy after he rented the place? Did you go back and hang out with the Sheets kids, or did you just rent it and move on?
He didn't want to hang out with me. I tried, but he didn't want to be friends. So no, I didn't.
Oh, well, maybe next time, right? So I'm just going to remind all of you, Mama Hen here, just remind you, quit judging people by the outside. But I'll also point out a little part of your earlier story where you knew that your mentor was successful because of the professional dress that he had on. And knowing that we are in a world where people do judge a book by its cover, if you are a professional in real estate, you should probably look like you believe in yourself enough to professionally dress yourself when you're taking the walk-in traffic and when you're out there conducting professional real estate. And if the client wants to dress down That's their choice, but you should be the best possible version of yourself. So, Nik, after doing all those different angles of the actual sales and mortgage side of real estate, you moved into the marketing piece. So give us a quick oversight of what you're doing now and what you can do to help people.
I own a company called REALTOP, realtop.com, and we're a digital marketing agency that helps all types of small to medium-sized businesses generate boatloads of quality leads, and we help people move their top-line revenue by marketing them through whether it's Google or Facebook or Instagram or doing SEO. Obviously, it depends on the type of client, but we help people blow up their sales, at least online.
So are you good at helping people avoid the censorship angle of those platforms and helping them figure out how to navigate that currently changing tide?
I'll tell you, it's been a real challenge. The last 12 months, especially on social media, specifically for running ads, has been a nightmare. Every time you see Mark Zuckerberg in the news, just realize if you try to publish an ad, there's going to be more censorship. We've published the same 10 ads, and 2 of them have gotten approved, and 8 of them have been red flagged. This is the nature of the beast right now. Maybe it will change, but right now, it's part of the marketing climate. And yeah, we do help people navigate it, but it's difficult. Don't assume it's just you if you're a business owner. I promise it's everybody.
And it's also why if you are a professional business owner, you only have so much time in the day. And so it can be good to have a digital marketing partner to help navigate the changing space so that you can focus on doing a great job for your clients and not judging them and getting the highest sale ever in a place. So if you're interested in reaching out to Nik, what's the best way for people to find you if they want to partner in the digital marketing space?
Check out our site, realtop.com. You can also hit us up on Instagram, Realtop Digital, or at Realtop Digital, or just shoot me an email, Nik, N-I-K, at realtop.com.
And we appreciate you not making your last name a part of the email address, because that would be entirely too hard to guess. Even if you watch My Big Fat Greek Wedding, it's too hard to spell. So kudos to your wife for figuring it out, unless she kept her last name, which we would not judge her for. But Nik, thank you so much for coming on the show and giving us a couple of different insights to think about the different pathways in real estate, why we shouldn't judge people, and also why it's good to have somebody by your side to navigate changing tides. Thanks for coming on the show. I guess Nik's not going to say anything else. So make sure you give him some love in the comments. Give him a thumbs up or a like. In the meantime, give me 5 stars and subscribe. We'll see you next time over here on Crazy Shit in Real Estate. Okay, now don't forget to go try Follow Up Boss so that your business can continue to expand in professionalism, and then you can meet some more crazy people yourself. I really appreciate Follow Up Boss sponsoring this episode, but mainly I appreciate them for giving y'all double the free trial time with no credit card required. So make sure you go to followupboss.com/crazy and then let me know what you think. I'll see you guys next time. As always, I'm so super thrilled that you joined in for more crazy shit. And if you're a realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular human being who happens to have an unbelievable story that you need to tell the world about, or frankly, you just need to one-up the story you just heard, then make sure to DM me on Instagram at Leigh Thomas Brown, or tweet me at Leigh Brown, or frankly, any social network where you hang out. I'm there. And if you had some fun, then you totally want to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.